Welcome to Roundup Reddit. Today, we have a story about a bride-to-be navigating the tricky dynamics with her fiancé's sister, her brother's bold proposal plans, and a friend wanting to bring her baby to a child-free wedding. Let's dive in. Story 1. How do I tell my fiancé's sister I don't want her in my wedding? For some context, I, 23, female, and my fiancé, 23, male, recently just moved into our own home after living with his mom for a little while after college, while house hunting's waiting to close. My fiance's little sister, 19, female, also lives at home, and she presents with some personal challenges. I used to sympathize with her depression and anxiety, especially because I was in a poor emotional state not too long ago. But after living in close quarters with her and experiencing her extreme behaviors, I've realized that she uses the depression and anxiety excuse as a manipulative tactic against everyone, especially soon-to-be mother-in-law, when she simply does not want to do something, or if majority rules in favor of an activity she does not like. And it can be something as simple as going out to dinner. My fiance and I would dedicate at least one night a week after work to spend with his mom before moving a little over 1,000 miles away, since we both knew we would rarely see her outside of the holidays. His little sister is honestly a miserable person to live with because she can never do anything for herself, expects people to cater to her, and there is never a moment in the day where she isn't angry and cursing out anybody and everybody that crosses paths with her. Both my fiance and I felt like we were always walking on eggshells, and me specifically always felt like I was in fight or flight anytime I was in the same room as her. She has good days. I don't really want to call it a good day. It's just when she gets her way and she's not cussing us all out. And sometimes I can put aside my own feelings and interact with her, and because we share some very minimal similar interests. For the most part, when we were all living under one roof, I didn't talk to her much and kept a neutral expression even when she was berating me, just to not give her the satisfaction of giving her a reaction. I have done nothing bad to her except, I guess, existing in the same air. But I guess that is enough for her to absolutely tear me a new one. I have always tried to be nice to her, but I reached a point of indifference after 3 days, back-to-back being yelled at for I don't even know what. The topic of my wedding always comes up in conversation when I call my soon-to-be mother-in-law, since she has been helping me with planning, and I invited her along with my dad to try on wedding dresses, because since my fiance and I have been together, she has filled a mother role for me since my mom is gone. Jealousy does come into play a little bit here, but I always made sure to include little sister in the majority of things we would do, but she would never want to join us, but would always go crying to other family members about how I excluded her as soon as we left the house. My little sister asked why she was not invited to the long weekend trip I planned for soon-to-be mother-in-law, to visit our new home, city, and to go to the dress appointment. I was able to play it off as just wanting parents there with me. She cussed me out for excluding her and expressed that she was going to use my wedding dress appointment as her own time to look for a bridesmaid dress. The bridesmaid comment completely caught me off guard, so I just hung up the phone while she was in the middle of yelling at me. As soon as we started the wedding planning process, I knew that I was more than likely going to have my two lifelong best friends in my bridal party for a variety of reasons, the main one being my little sister's extremely bad attitude toward everybody. In an ideal world, I would have a wonderful relationship with her and she would be at my wedding, but unfortunately, that is not reality. I've tried to talk myself into just letting her in the wedding party just to avoid being painted in a bad light by her to their extended family. She has done this before to other people, bending the truth to look like the victim. But at the same time, the truth will always come out, and I cannot sacrifice my own feelings for hers because deep down, I know even if I give in, it'll never be enough, and she will find nothing and turn it into a huge something and sour the mood. My two bridesmaids have been around her in the past and have been nothing but nice to her, but don't quite understand the magnitude of her bad attitude, and I feel that it would be extremely unfair to them to pretty much throw them in the same fight or flight mode I was in when I lived with his little sister. It breaks my heart to exclude her, and I wish I could wholeheartedly and genuinely invite her to be a bridesmaid, but I can't. How do I go about letting her down easy? Update: sister-in-law and I had the conversation over the phone, and it went as expected, and ended with her threatening not to come after telling us we don't deserve her as a sister and wishing awful things upon me that I can't even repeat, because no one should have that wished on them. The fiancé stepped in on the call at this point and uninvited her and told her we would use her spot for someone who we actually enjoy having around and generally loving and supportive of us. Long story short, my fiancé and his sister are out of contact. She's no longer welcomed at our wedding. Story 2. My brother wanted to propose to his girlfriend at my upcoming wedding. I said no, and all of this happened. I'm making this whole post here because I can't update in the original subreddit. This all started in, so I'll compile everything here. I'll start this off by saying my wedding is scheduled for April because my fiance, 25, female, has always dreamed of a spring wedding. And I really like the idea too. I have an older brother who is 30, male, and last Saturday I was called over to my parents' house to talk about something. But they refused to tell me what until I got there. They then sat me down with my brother and told me that my brother wants to use my wedding as the perfect day for him to propose to his girlfriend. I was instantly mad and told them absolutely not, but they ganged up on me. I ended up so enraged to the point that I, one man, somehow backed all three of them into a corner. I told them that if they want to do this, then not only will they all be uninvited, but I'll also cut off the financial support I've been giving monthly since they paid to have my golden child brother go through college by taking out a second mortgage. I landed a decently high-paying job and have been sending $500 to my parents monthly to help ease their mortgage. And I didn't ask for a stake in the ownership of their house either because I really don't want it. It was entirely goodwill, and I can cut it off anytime. I left without speaking anything more to them, but my brother came to my home the next day to yell at me that I ruined his big chance because now our parents are siding with me and say they'll evict him if he tries to propose at my wedding. He said I was financially blackmailing our parents and that he just wanted a good chance to propose because he was afraid his girlfriend might leave him soon. I said that was his problem, not mine, because my wedding day is not about him. And if he tries to propose at my wedding, I will have him thrown out. That's not a maybe, but a definite. And I doubt his girlfriend would appreciate her proposal, followed up with being tossed out by a bouncer. He yelled a few choice words at me, then went crying to our only surviving grandparent, our maternal grandmother, and she called to try and ream me over the phone. No surprise my brother heavily embellished the version of the story he told her, but she still sided with him after I gave her the real story. She tried to hold her ground, but the verbal backlash I ended up giving her left her crying. That got back to my parents, who were pissed at me for taking things so far. But I told them I only went that far because I had to when they were all trying to get me to let my brother use my wedding as his springboard for a proposal. They ended up agreeing with me, but still stated they feel like I'm crass. And my brother showed up at my home again to scream at me that I'm an asshole. And I hope I'm happy with myself for not allowing him the opportunity. My fiance knows what my brother tried to do, and she's very angry about it. She's almost ready to have him uninvited if he pursues this any further. Normally, I have a very mild temper, but when it comes to certain people like my brother, parents, and grandmother, I can easily get short with them because of all the past favoritism. My grandmother especially. She always sided with my brother and believed his lies no matter what he did. She's the biggest reason my parents favored my brother too. She kept trying to convince me over the phone to let my brother propose at my wedding, that I ended up losing it on her. I ended up speaking with my brother again and threatened to tell his girlfriend if he was still intending to propose at my wedding without permission. He took it poorly and called me an awful person. So I pointed out that my wedding isn't about him. Our parents were there for this, and they backed me up. I think my brother did a double take when they did that. My dad pointed out that he'd raised my brother wrong, and that was on him. So from now on, my brother was to show them real respect, and they wanted to get an official lease drawn up for him to pay proper rent and utilities. He was only paying them $300 a month without contributing to any utilities or food. And if he doesn't want to pay, he can move out and they'll rent his room to someone else. My brother turned to our mom for help, but she just agreed with Dad. He looked like he was having a conniption and then left the house. He came back a couple hours later, but spoke to no one and locked himself in his room. 2 days later, my brother announced he was moving in with Grandma because she invited him. And our parents basically told him that if he wants to live with her, then to go ahead. My brother responded to this by saying, "We all hate him for just wanting to propose to his girlfriend." My parents pointed out that it's not that he wanted to propose, but where he wanted to do it, and he'd get no support for it. He's refusing to talk to our parents now. My grandmother did try to call me again, but it ended up with me telling her that my brother will not be allowed to propose at my wedding, plain and simple, so he can get over it or not come, and the same goes for her. I ended up calling her out on her favoritism towards my brother since we were kids, which she tried to deny at first, but couldn't keep doing so because of how much I'd pointed out. She ended up crying again while I told her that if she keeps trying to insist on this, then she won't be coming to my wedding. She begged me not to rescind her invite, but still said she doesn't understand why I couldn't let my brother have his way before ending the call. My fiance is 100% on my side and is fully ready to remove my brother and grandmother from the wedding. My grandmother hasn't called again, and she's not talking to my parents either. My guess is my brother went crying to her again to tell her mommy and daddy weren't enabling him anymore. So she offered for him to move in with her, but there's literally nothing she can do to sway me. And I think my last conversation with her made her realize that. I didn't wish to tell my brother's GF, but she called me up on a Saturday about my Reddit post. She saw it read in an online video and then realized it might be me with the way I described my brother and grandmother. So yeah, now she knows. She ended up tearing my brother a new asshole, and he still tried to justify himself to her. That's when she told him him they were through and cut all contact with him. My brother, of course, blamed me, even though his girlfriend said that she's been ready to leave him for a while now. And if he'd tried to propose, no matter where, she'd have told him no. So that's it. My brother showed up at my place one more time to have a fit and said he is boycotting my wedding. He actually thought he had leverage that he and Grandma won't go. I said I wouldn't miss him and that he's in his 30s now and needs to grow up. Our parents have cut the umbilical cord and are no longer supporting him. And they're already repainting his room to rent it to someone else. And they plan on renting out my old bedroom as well, because they need the money after the financial hole he left them in after dropping out of college, just to do mooch off them for a while and then get a degree with online college later. And then barely paying any rent, while also making them pay for his food and utilities, despite having a good paying job. They spent the world on him, and he wasn't the least bit grateful. That made my brother just shut down and leave. And since then, we've not heard a peep out of him. That's everything that's happened from my original post up till now. Edit, yes, I have very good security hired for the wedding, and they'll toss my brother out like bouncers in a heartbeat. Story 3. Should we allow my friend to bring her baby to our child-free wedding? My fiance and I decided that we would have a child-free wedding before my friend got pregnant last year. When we gave her the save the dates, we explained that it was going to be a child-free day and we hoped they understood. We sent out the invitations a couple months ago and it said, no children on the invite. We didn't hear back with a RSVP. She insisted on meeting me with her partner yesterday and the baby, and they made a case that they would like to bring the baby. The wedding is 3 months away and the baby will be 6 months old at the time. The venue is an hour drive from their house. She is currently breastfeeding. I said, could we wait and see until nearer the time, as situations can change? And we have other families not bringing babies. So if we said yes, it would be with the understanding that it was because she was breastfeeding. This is when they got quite pressured, saying they had booked an B&B and needed to know my decision. They said they weren't sure if they would get the money back if we said no to the baby. I said I would need to talk to my partner, and then they started talking about baby outfits and how cute the baby would look. They said a baby wouldn't be running around screaming like a toddler, but it did cry a lot, so I disagree that it wouldn't be disruptive. I'm not very close to this friend anymore. We rarely text and see each other a couple times a year. We've had a complicated relationship over the years, mainly due to everything having to be her way all the time. I also had a bad year not long ago, and she never reached out or acted like a friend. My partner and mom don't like her for this reason. Really, they should have been evening guests, but we were day guests at their wedding. Any advice on what I can do? My partner isn't happy and said, it makes it awkward to other families with children and babies, so no. We don't really like children, and our venue is mainly outside. The toilets are a bit of a walk, and there's no ramps in places for pushchairs, so it's not the more accessible location either. I don't want to cause an argument with him over someone who hasn't been a great friend recently. But also, I would prefer to say yes to bringing the baby to save an awkward conversation with her, but it's not just my decision. Thanks for joining us on Roundup Reddit. We hope you enjoyed these wedding drama stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing Reddit tales. See you next time.